Biden's much awaited press conference. First and foremost, I thought he did an amazing job overall. What was your rate? What
Yeah,
rating
I
did you
sent
give
you a
him?
text. I was like, he was killing it because we talked about this before. Biden has this like, come on, shucks kind of attitude about things, and I think it works well to like this adversarial relationship that I feel like the press is trying to establish. When they're like, "Are you going to run against Trump?" He's like, "I don't know if Trump's running. Do you know?" And it's just this like, he probably has a smarter answer to that, but he's just going to be like, "Come on, like, what are we actually doing here?" And I think it works enough to where they probably won't ask him that again because it's kind of a ridiculous question 3 months into an
Well, and
administration.
I think one of the things that's tough is that Trump set such a low
Yeah.
bar, right? And I mean, on the one hand, I want to be able to even just say, well, screw you, press. He's treating you 100 times better.
Yeah.
The whole argument about, well, it took him forever. Well, here's a question: is a truthful, honest, straight press conference straight that we're Biden is straight with you? Is that better than Trump making himself more available but lying all the time? I mean, that's they talk about how accessible the Trump White House was.
Right.
They talk about how he would always stop in a helicopter and how he had more. He had already had more press conferences. But if he's lying, if he's
Yeah.
misleading, and if he's being outright abusive to the press, what is the criteria? And I got so angry. Maggie Haberman,
Oh
the morning of
man.
the press conference
Man.
before, she went ahead and she talked about how he's not good in this format. And and this is what I think is kind of a problem with cable news. Stuff that's normal functions like a press conference and everything else, they treat it like the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
where they have a pregame show, a postgame show. NBC trots in Brian Williams all of a sudden to anchor it because evidently no one else can anchor a press conference with the president. Look, I like Brian Williams, but I just always wonder, like, why do they, you know, is he really going to do a much better job to say Eamon Moyadeen or someone else? I
Yeah.
think Eamon could do a kick-ass job, but I think that the press wants that spectacle so
Mhm.
much, right? And they're not going to get it. And especially because with Trump, the whole question about are you going to run again or not run again, that should have never been asked, strictly because, and then they pointed to, well, Trump had already set up thing. Don't use Trump as a standard bearer. It is not common for presidents in their first 100 days to set up a a a, a reelection campaign and even deal with the reelection question.
Yeah. And
It's just so
Trump did it on the
frustrating.
second day. Yeah. Look, I want to talk about two things that you kind of talked about. Um, the first thing is that's what I mean about that question should have never been answered. As Biden has enough of that old folksy, what are we doing here to kind of fight that, right? And I love how he answered that question. He's like, are you going to run against Trump? It's like, do you know Trump's running? Like, what are you even asking me? Do you want me to predict a Republican candidate 3.5 years out? It's ridiculous. And I do agree that, look, I think the press and the secretary office, the press secretary office, and the administration should have some sort of tension in the sense that the press is there to do the job, and the administration has to be held accountable. I also think that the press is so obsessed with making a story that we live in this 24-hour news cycle now. Trump quite literally made it a 24-hour news cycle where he was up at 3 a.m. tweeting threats to Iran, right? And we saw Jen Psaki say, this president will not make news at 4 a.m., I promise you. Like, granted, outside of an emergency situation, right? So it's like the press wants that so much. I gave them the benefit of the doubt for like this whole time, but I clearly saw it on this day. It was like they were looking for just a drama and a headline and a byline in the article to get clicks, and that's what I felt. I also want to push back on the fact that he waited so long. Like, he inherited an absolute mess in COVID, an absolute mess with the economy, an absolute mess with everything. You want him to hold a press conference in the first week. He's just still figuring out what the game plan is. Let him, like, they won't. They're criticizing for not having a press conference. They refuse to make Garland the AG, and they make him wait. Right? They're just like booting this down the road, and they're asking for a press conference. Let us get a team in and let us go. Let him go. I also will say, what is Jen Psaki there for? Like, we saw who's the Sean Spicer. and we saw who was it, Huckabee, and then
Huckabee
we saw
Sanders.
Kaylee sit up there and lie all day long. Look, the press secretary is the president's office. When you ask a question to Jen Psaki, she's answering on behalf of the president. I don't want Joe Biden to sit there and ask questions all day. I want him to go to work, pass COVID relief, pass voter rights laws, and do all that stuff. There's a press secretary for a reason, and she has a daily briefing. Trump did not have a daily briefing for a long time. So what are we actually doing here? There's some sort of bias. I'm not trying to say that give Biden a break, but I'm also just trying to say, like, look, there's a press secretary who has a daily briefing every single day. Ask your question and get it over with.
Well, I think Dave Weigel kind of hit it on the head where he was talking about you guys for Washington Post, and he was talking about how he doubts that people who just got their COVID relief checks or their vaccines are really all that upset that Biden didn't have a press conference
Yeah,
yet,
not at
right?
all. Yeah.
That and it's but here's the thing, and it's weird, and I say this as a person who works with the press on a regular basis. Um, I don't think there's anything wrong with an adversarial press,
Right.
but an adversarial press should be part of the relationship, but it shouldn't necessarily be a standard.
Mm-hmm.
It shouldn't be if I came out today and said something uncontroversial, you shouldn't automatically start digging for controversy where there's no controversy. Believe it, there is enough bullshit out there
Yeah.
that needs that extra digging and everything else. But it seems like oftentimes it's almost like radicals. I don't mind radicals, but I hate people who are radical for the sake of being
Mm-hmm.
radical,
Yeah.
right? Meaning, if this can be done this way unradically and it can be done this way radically, I'm not going to automatically just go to radical because that's,
Yeah.
an adversarial press is the same way. It's like, I definitely don't want there not to be an adversarial press, but what is the purpose of an adversarial press? Is not to be adversarial, is to get to the truth.
Right.
Right? And when you're constantly treating every response to a question as if it's a lie or if it's misleading or if there's some type of tension, I mean, down to, okay, not only does he say, I'm running for president, but then the next question is, will Kamala Harris be on your ticket? Are you kidding
Just
me?
creating drama. Yeah.
They're trying, and again, I don't want to be that Republican. Oh, screw the press. I think we have a lot of patience, but look, you and I are both Bears fans, and as I've said before, with sports fans, even when our team is playing well, we're second guessing everything they're
For
doing.
sure.
And I'm sorry, press, you guys did an okay job during the Trump administration. We love it. It is more satisfying watching you bust. Kaylee McEnary's chops, than it is watching you bust Jen Psaki's chops. But I understand that you have a job to do. But I also tell you though, Jen Psaki does a good job of giving it back.
Yeah, for sure.
But and part of the reason why she's so effective is she doesn't have a daily diatribe
Mm-hmm.
against the press, which is what the Trump administration
For
had.
sure.
She literally will sit there, and when you step to her the wrong way, she will respond in kind. But she ain't out there just spewing invective, so to speak.